Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. A couple of nights ago, I was able to attend another opera, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm so happy I got to go and see slash hear this opera. What I saw, this is the kind of the flyer that was in the program. I saw Dead Man Walking. There it is. There's kind of the graphic for the opera. So yeah, I saw this March 3rd at Kennedy Center, Washington National Opera. So here is the cast. I'll put this up here. I'm not going to read through all of the cast, but there is the entire cast. There's the top. So yeah, this is Dead Man Walking. This is music by Jake Heggie, and the librettos by Terrence McNally. Sister Helen Prejean was sung by Kate Lindsay. The Convict, Joseph De Rocher, was sung by Michael Mays. Mrs. De Rocher, his mother, was sung by Susan Graham. And then sort of the other main parts, Sister Rose, which is another one of the nuns, was sung by Jacqueline Eccles, and the warden was sung by Timothy J. Bruno. The conductor was Michael Christie, and the director was Francesca Zambello. So it was a great cast. This is Dead Man Walking. This is based on the memoirs of a real-life sister, Helen Prejean. They pronounced it in the opera. I assume that's how she pronounces her name. It's spelled like Prejean, Prejean, but kind of Southern Louisiana, kind of French, I guess, pronunciations of a lot of the names down there. So, but it's about and then eventually it's based on this memoir by the sister, but it's also been made into a movie. Quite a few years ago, the movie starred Susan Sarandon as the sister, and Sean Penn was Joseph De Rocher, the convicted killer. So basically, if you don't know this story, there's a convicted a man whose name is Joseph De Rocher. He's in South Louisiana. He is on death row. He has been convicted of killing a couple of young people, a young man and young woman, after raping the young woman. And he gets sentenced to death, and he is on death row, and his execution is, he's rapidly running out of appeals, and at that time he strikes up a communication with this nun, Sister Prejean, and she ends up becoming his spiritual advisor and sort of seeing him through, the last couple of appeals, and then, ultimately his death in the opera. So it's my understanding that this story is a composite of a couple of different real-life killers. I believe her memoir is based on, is her story of working with a couple of death row convicts, and I think it was my understanding that this particular story in the opera is a composite. This Joseph De Rocher is a composite of the two, but I think the crime actually did happen, sort of with the two young people, the rape and murder of the girl, and then the murder of the young man. Yeah, so it's a pretty heavy story, but that's sort of where we are with the story. It really lent itself. I did see the movie many, many years ago when it actually came out. I don't remember a whole lot about it other than it being really intense, and the opera was as well, because it's this, all of the different aspects of justice are really played out in the opera. We have the family of the victims, which of course they're crushed emotionally, and they're very angry, and so they want to see the execution. Then we have, on the other hand, Joseph De Rocher's family, his mother, as sung by Susan Graham, and she's basically pleading for her son's life. Then we have the authority figures of represented in the opera anyway by the warden and also by a cop and the prison guards that are sort of indifferent to the outcome of this particular case, because I think the authority, is sort of indifferent because they see the warden at one point actually in the opera mentions, that there's hundreds of people on death row. Ultimately, they will all be killed, by the state, and so he doesn't engage in it on any personal level. There's also a priest, a male priest, which is made really a nice kind of juxtaposition on with the sister, because the sister's really trying to engage with Joseph De Rocher on a human level, whereas everyone else, his mom sees him still as a little boy. The families of the victims see him as a monster, and the authority figures of the society, like the warden and the prison guards, just see him as a prison number. They just see him as another prisoner. And so really the only one engaging with Joseph De Rocher as human to human is the sister. The priest himself really just wants to get a confession, and really is one of the authority figures, where it's just really basically he's the chaplain of the prison, and he's basically just treating Joseph as just another prisoner that, yes, I need to do the last rites. I need to get a confession. And if I don't do, that's really all he really cared about. So the sister really engages with him on a human level. She takes us on that journey with her. And so we then experience this journey with her, engaging. So we don't have any sympathy for Joseph, because when the opera is opening, we're seeing the rape and murder of the young people, rape and murders, and so we know he did it. And then we know he refuses to accept, and he refuses to acknowledge his guilt to anyone. He still claims he's innocent, but yet we know he's guilty. So he's not a sympathetic figure. But somehow, by going on this journey with the sister, we see him in a real human light. And even though we know what he did, and we know how horrible it was, then we still sort of feel his anguish, because he is ultimately anguished to die. He doesn't want to die, and the sister sort of leads him through this journey. So it was really a moving experience for me. I didn't really know what to expect with it, because it's a modern opera. It was written, I think it premiered in the year 2000 by the San Francisco Opera. But it's been performed a few times. I think this is the first time it's been performed here in the Washington D.C. area where I live. But modern opera. I really wasn't sure, how they would adapt the story from the movie. From the book and then the movie, and then how that would fit, operatically. And, it's been so long since I saw the movie, as I mentioned, I don't know how the opera compares to the movie per se, exactly. But I do know that it was a very emotional journey into a subject that's difficult, to talk about. It's one thing to say, to sort of defend him, to sort of say he shouldn't be killed if you're not the family of the people he killed. But then on the other hand, is adding violence to violence going to solve anything? And is it even going to help them overcome their grief? And that's a question that's addressed in the opera by some of the family members. It's like, they probably, to them, that wouldn't even, fill the hole that's been left by the loss of their children and their loved ones. So very difficult topic, and very, very sort of challenging, I guess, emotional. ringer to be run through operatically, but at the end of about 2.5 hours, it was really beautifully done, and I really enjoyed it a lot. So I've since listened to it. There is at least one recording of it on Spotify, and the recording is really quite well done too. So I've listened to it again since just the recording, but I'd love to see it. Even if I ever get a chance to see it live again, I would definitely be willing to do that, because it was really a great experience. So I'll leave it at that. I will have more videos on various topics, including a book that I just finished. So that'll be coming up very soon. Take care. Bye.